John O'Keefe was 46 years old. 46 years old. He spent his life helping people.
Oh my God, this is terrible.
He's described as a good man, kind, generous, thoughtful. He was a Boston police officer. He worked to help the community.
Wrong. This is the wrong approach for Hank Brennan. Wrong. He should come out immediately saying, I hit him. He should be countering Jackson in the way that Jackson was pre-countering him. He should say, don't you dare try and wiggle that thing at me. I'll wiggle it for you. And he should dive right in. Because that's their only case. Doing this weird sympathy bid on John O'Keefe. Yes, he's dead. Everybody knows he's dead. The whole purpose of this trial is that he's dead. He's been dead for years now, and nobody gives a shit about him. Everybody gives a shit about Karen Reed. Why are you trying to focus on John O'Keefe now? Oh, it's such a tragedy. We know. Why didn't you guys investigate it? This is a bad start.
Everything you've heard about this man, he was a good man. He helped people.
I don't believe that at all.
When his niece and nephew
I believe it
had
less
nobody,
because this guy
he
said
took
it.
them in.
He took them in probably as foster care, full-time foster children, and probably got paid a pretty decent amount of money from the county to do so. Like, which he should. Like, if the parents are gone and the county has to send, find a foster parent who's a parent to raise the kids in the absence of the availability of a parent, they should be compensated. The county has asked someone to do something, and they should do that. I don't know if John did it as a foster thing or if he just took them in or whatever, but if he did it with any assistance from the county, and as a cop, I would think he probably did. He was likely he was likely well compensated for taking on the quote unquote burden of these children. Let's not pretend that civil servants don't use the civil services that are available, and they should. They're available. They should definitely use them. But this whole he did this, well, I mean, kinda. But it's not like he did it completely thanklessly.
He took them in. John O'Keefe seemed to be the type of person who would help anybody at any time. And on January 29, 2022, John O'Keefe needed some help. He needed help from somebody else.
No, he was dead.
You see,
quickly.
John O'Keefe had just been hit by Karen Reed in front of 34 Fairview Road, and he lay on the ground dying, and he needed help. Someone to reach out a hand, someone to knock on a door, someone to make a phone call to 911, even anonymously.
The amazing thing is, yes, that's true, but he was still dead. Like, he was going to die. His head was bashed so hard, he was toast. That's the testimony we got from the medical examiner. So he didn't need help. He needed a fucking coroner. One that you guys seem to keep away from him, which is very, very weird.
Not take responsibility, just to help. And there was only one person in this entire planet who could help him that morning, to give him a chance.
What
Maybe it was a
lunatic
33%
world do
chance
you live
he met
in?
the Isaac Wolf of the world. But to give him a
Insane. You have several people at the party who could have easily gone, hey, where's our friend who is supposed to come in here? One of them texted, like, you coming tonight? He's like, I am now. Woo. You also had the plow driver. You had the plow driver who could have offered assistance if only John was actually laying on the ground when you said he was. But you're a liar, Brennan. I don't know if I'm going to get through. Like, I'm going to keep
chance.
Stopping this if I don't stop myself.
Who could help him that morning was this defendant right here, Karen Reed. And she made a decision. In her Lexus with the shattered taillight, debris field all over the front yard, and John O'Keefe lying helpless like a child on the front yard. She made a choice. She didn't call 911. She didn't run to his aid. She didn't knock on a door. She made a decision about herself. In her Lexus, she drove away.
There's no evidence to support that she made a conscious decision to drive
She
away.
was drunk. She hit him,
That would be
and she left him to die.
cataclysmically
was
against
drunk.
what you just said.
She hit him, and she left him to die.
Wait, so you're taking away the malicious murder from the second degree charge? Like, because that's what you're arguing right now, is that she was drunk and she hit him, which would be the DUI murder charge. You going to drop that other charge there, Hank?
Before I go through and detail the evidence, let's
Dishonesty.
talk a little bit about
Fucking
the
hate-
evidence as a whole. She was drunk. She was drinking that night. She was drinking McCarthy's with John. She was drinking at the waterfall. Her blood was taken with samples of the retrograde analysis, almost 2 to 3 times the legal limit. She was drunk.
Where do we get 2 to 3 times the legal limit? She was at the biggest number I saw was a 0.98, which wouldn't be 2 to 3 times the legal limit. It's barely over the legal limit. And actually, it was in the margin of error to be under the legal limit when you had to correct for the error of that type of analysis, especially on someone with MS. So, why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
She hit him. The timeline in this case is beyond dispute. You can accuse, assault, characterize, malign, twist. The timeline doesn't change. It is data. Data is data. The black box,
You literally brought
the
in
forensics
an
from the
expert
SD
to
card,
change the
we know
timeline.
exactly step by step where they were.
Yeah, how can you say this? How can you unironically stand there in front of a jury and say, no, the timeline is it, data, when you brought in a lying nerd to come in and be like, no, actually, the data was wrong and we're going to change it. And he'd be like, you can't change data. You actually brought in a guy who lied about his CV for 17 years to come in and say, no, actually, the data is wrong and we have to adjust for it now. The data can't change.
We know in that window, she hits him because he never moves again. His healthcare data, the temperature on the battery of the cell phone, the physical evidence, the debris field, the DNA, the hair. And then she left him to die. He had a basal skull fracture. Count the coop. You've heard all about it when the back of your head hits the
Count the
ground,
coop.
brain
He
goes.
doesn't even know what he's saying.
Dr. Wolf told us the reason why
JJ,
they have
I'm
level
gonna
1 trauma
stop.
centers around the country
gonna
is
stop
because
pausing him.
people can survive this injury if they get help. That's why they have
Hands
this
where I
care.
can
That's
see
why
them.
they have these hospitals. But you gotta get help.
I lied.
You gotta get help.
I'm not
And if
keeping
you
my hands on
don't,
my tits.
You develop symptoms, ecchymosis, raccoon eyes, your brain swells, and you die.
Oh, what help could have saved
She was
him?
drunk.
She was drunk.
And that night was a recipe for disaster. But before we get
It's
to
every
the
night
drinking,
with you.
in some ways, the fate of this night was sealed well before that night because John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were in a toxic relationship. This relationship was crumbling. We hear lovey-dovey, and it was crumbling, and we know it. And we know it because a month before, his niece Kaylee talks about when they went to Aruba. It should have been a wonderful event. It was discord. It was fighting. It was aggravation. And when they got back, the discontent was palpable. Miss Reed reaches out to Brian Higgins, text messaging. John O'Keefe, the relationship is crumbling. And
You
heard
still a
little
lot
bit
of
about
fun,
what that
Higgins?
relationship was like. Kaylee, his niece, told you when there was an argument, John would do what John does. He would walk away. She described for you one time to get away from the scene. He walked into his bedroom, but the defendant wouldn't let it go, pounding on his door, having to get the last word, never letting go of the fight.
It sounds like
Kind of
every
mirrors what
woman in a
happened on
relationship
January
ever.
29, 2022.
Also,
And
like every
maybe
guy in a
outward
relationship
appearance, they
ever.
got along. Maybe sometimes quietly they got along. But behind closed doors, relationships have up and downs. We have a bird's eye view into the relationship on January 28, 2022, because we have the text messages. Not so lovey-dovey. The relationship is almost over. The tensions are simmering beneath the surface.
Right, that's why she killed him. That's normal.
They are not getting along. She believes Mr. Keefe is already halfway out of the relationship and he's not into it anymore. You will read them, you saw them. This relationship was unstable and at
Maybe
its
his
end.
tongue down that hoe's throat
And
was
so
her
fast
first
forward
indication.
That night, after this discord, after the arguing, they go out and what do? They drink. And
So?
they drink a lot.
So
Keith drinks a lot, and Karen Reed drinks a lot.
what?
You've seen the McCarthy videos. You can call it 6, 7, 8, whatever you want to call it. You can see the shots into the mixed drinks. More shots into mixed drinks. Count them yourself. Over a half dozen mixed drinks in just a few hours. Sober? And then at the waterfall, a shot, a mixed drink. Now, it was brought up the waterfall that there was some type of discord between Brian Higgins and John O'Keefe. They knew each other. They were friends. Brian Higgins' conduct of speaking to Karen Reed is not honorable. It's not. But they were friendly. There was no adversarial relationship. There was no anger between them. What we heard is they barely greeted each other. Could we have slide 1, please?
No.
At the Waterfall Bar, when you see John O'Keefe come in, here's him barely greeting him. That's him and Mr. Higgins. Barely greeting each other. Reality sometimes is different than argument. This is a celebratory mood. Take that down, please. Celebratory mood. A bunch of friends. They're playing around. They're hugging. They're grappling. This is a fighting
It's
technique
so
for a
gay.
murder 2 hours later. Is that the story? They're practicing their moves to murder John O'Keefe.
Yes.
In the celebratory mood, you don't see any aggravation or animus between Brian Higgins and John O'Keefe. Inevitably, the next morning, Karen Reed is brought to the hospital and they take her blood. Now, the government doesn't have to prove that she was drunk. It is either that she's over the legal limit, 0.08, or she had enough alcohol to affect her ability to operate a motor vehicle safely, but you will know
That's
that
drunk.
she was far beyond the legal limit. After the retrograde analysis, almost 2 to 3 times the legal limit. Almost 2 to 3 times the legal limit.
Low watermark with a big pink boy. Thank you so much. Says, I hope you're doing well, Nick. You look really warm. Turn up the AC. The AC's up a bit. I've been dealing with an illness for about a week, and I think I'm on the downslope from it, so it's good. But yeah, if I look a little warm, that's why. But we're all good. We're all good. A little congested, but in general. Thanks, man. Appreciate the super
Now,
chat, of course.
It's been intimated.
Nobody
Tom
intimates
said
anything
that
with you,
maybe
Hank.
She went home and started drinking after she got home. No evidence, mind you. No evidence.
No evidence.
And
That's-
that somehow that is why she had a high blood alcohol level.
That's actually a good point by Hank, though. There was no
Not
evidence of that.
appropriate For me to comment on the credibility.
I think it's a
Another
reasonable
character,
assumption,
so I
but it
won't
was
do that.
not introduced into evidence.
But Karen Reed will do that for her. So if we listen to slide 2, she'll tell you exactly what she thinks about that claim.
My alcohol intake's probably about 5 or 6 or 4. The drinks that they were pouring me at McCarthy's, which is where I consumed most of the alcohol, was the weakest fucking time. It tasted just like old soda water with lime.
Slide 3, please.
I wouldn't have gotten on the expressway. I wouldn't have gotten on the expressway at 12:15 in the quiet, the roads were very quiet, you can see it on the videos. And I was going, when I've had my drinks and I drive, I always wear extra socks, and I know my alerts aren't as sharp as they should be. But I shouldn't be driving.
Thank you. Do you think she drank when she got home?
Yes. See, here's the crazy
When they
thing.
leave the Waterfall Bar at 12:12, you see a video.
This guy tells us what a luscious drunk she is and how she can't stop herself. He's like, you think she drank when she got home? Yes, yes. Everything you said leads me to the conclusion that she drank significant amounts of liquor the moment she got home after a fight with her boyfriend and a long night out. Yeah. Why is that weird? Why? You think she drank when she got home? Yes.
You have it in evidence. There's a still photo of John O'Keefe holding a glass. Not from the Albert's home. He didn't sneak into the house in the cupboards and grab a glass. From the waterfall, you see him with a glass, and in it is a straw. Take a look at that picture. And now from 12:12 on, we virtually have a historian in the data that tells us exactly where he went, exactly step by step where he went. And how do we have that? Well, we know the defendant's car had like a black box, and Judd Welcher, Dr. Judd Welcher, took the data from the black box and downloaded it so you can see the movements and the triggering events. And then Shannon Burgess, well, you don't like what he says, don't attack the data, attack the man. He can be mocked for his LinkedIn profile or his unupdated CV. But
No,
what
his
he did
his
is
lies
he found a key
wasn't
critical
unupdated, it
piece
was
of
a
this case
lie.
that did not exist before. He found it recently. And it was that SD card. The SD card that everybody missed.
And you're going to say
including
now
the
that data
defense
can be
expert.
changed
Everybody
when you
missed
said
it.
earlier that it
So as
can't.
much as you want to make fun of him, Shannon Welcher found the key so that we could have the time and date and location coordinated for an impenetrable timeline that can't be broken.
Tell me
That's
about
what
penetrating
Shannon Burgess
again.
did. And so we know on the way from the waterfall to 34 Fairview, Ms. Reed is driving drunk. Mr. O'Keefe is in the passenger side of the car, and they're heading their way to 34 Fairview, and they get lost. And now we have more data because John O'Keefe has a cell phone. And I said it in the beginning, it is a historian. It doesn't suffer from bias, it doesn't suffer from prejudice, it doesn't suffer from memory loss. It has data on it. And he puts on Waze, high location data, as Ian Whiff would say. And it tells you second by second the speed, the location, the movement. That's what it does. And he has healthcare data on that phone. The healthcare data separately shows his movement. And that is critical. It is critical because it not only shows his movement, it shows when he does not move. That healthcare data is critical. And it's not subject to bias. It's not in dispute. There's no other contrary evidence. It is data. On the way to 34 Fairview, alcohol fuels tension. We know that. And we know from those text messages the tension.
Alcohol
in that
doesn't
relationship.
always fuel
And then
tension.
there's a trigger. There is a trigger.
We don't know that.
On the way
What
because
expert
they're
came and said
lost.
that alcohol fuels
And when
tension?
John
What
O'Keefe
psychologist
calls
came in and did that, or
Jen
addiction
McCabe for
specialist?
directions. Jen McCabe says something that triggers what's going to happen next. Could I have slide 4, please?
I don't remember an expert coming in and testifying that alcohol, increases tension or whatever. But maybe they did. I think hung jury, though.
Very close to the Alberts. In fact, when Jen was navigating John to the Alberts when I was driving, she said it's near Ashley's house. Ashley and John had hooked up prior to John and I dating.
And so as they travel to 34 Fairview, under the duress of this crumbling relationship, fueled by intoxication, we have triggers. Now, we know on their way there, we know from the data, where they went, how they moved. If we look at slide 5, Ian Whiffen showed you a guide. You could enlarge that just a little, please. And it shows you with the healthcare data, it registers as flights climbed, but it doesn't mean someone's climbing upstairs. What it means is there's an elevation, and he breaks down the data, the red, the green, if you could move down, please, Ms. Gomez. And then in the bottom left, that's 34th Fairview. You can see, second by second, the circles of their route, even the three-point turn.
Like Post Malone's song
That's
or
what
whatever.
you see. At that point, they've left the bar. Remember the
Bar.
battery temperature was 82 degrees. They're now in a car. It's now 77 degrees. Think about how accurate the battery temperature is, that it reflects the difference between being in a bar and being in a car. They take a three-point turn at Cedar Crest. And because of Shannon Burgess and because of Judd Welcher, we have the data, and it's a triggering event. Remember, if there's an acceleration past 30%, it registers data on the car, and that's exactly what happens. Is a three-point turn, and it all lines up with the cell phone after you synchronize the times. It's that simple. It's nothing complicated. There's nothing tricky. There's nothing devious about it. It's data. They do the three-point turn.
It's data that we changed because it wasn't working out for us.
Clock with the Lexus clock, and when you do, you can reconcile the difference. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of argument, a lot of fights. Shannon Burgess says 21 to 29 seconds. Mr. DeSorga comes in. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to actually do anything. He wasn't given the invitation to test the data. He just looked at the report and made decisions.
He wasn't able to do anything.
But even he, looking at the data, says, well, it's 3 seconds off or 2 seconds. Same window.
He wasn't able to
same
do anything.
Time.
I don't
all
know.
the arguments we want.
He didn't have the invitation.
They're there. They're together. The data matches up perfectly. Perfectly. And so they make their way down to 34 Fairview Road. They don't stop. They don't stop at the driveway. They don't stop. And John O'Keefe gets out of the car. They go to the flagpole, and we know for two reasons. One, the data. And secondly, Mr. Nagel and Ms. Mason at Cedar Crest, at that intersection before it goes down to the right, they meet. They let Karen Reed go first. They fall behind in the truck. Now, at this point,
Oh my God, there's an hour left.
Mr. O'Keefe has about 8 more minutes before the beginning and the end of his life. And he's in that car. He's in that car for most of it. Because Ms. Mason and Mr. Nagel don't see anybody get out of the truck. Nobody crosses the lawn.
Okay.
Nobody goes to a garage. Not just because they didn't see it.
That's fine.
Not because they didn't see it. Because the healthcare data on the phone shows that John O'Keefe is not
Took
moving. The car is
85
stopped at the
steps
flagpole.
after
the
he
healthcare
died.
data stops. The battery stays at 77 degrees. The data is the data. You can't change it as much as you want to. It's data. And they sit at that flagpole for minutes. It's 12, 24, 33 when they get there. They're there past 12:30. Remember, Ms. Mason and Mr. Nagel said they were there about 5 minutes and then they go. It's not exact, but about 5 minutes they said. So there's about 2 minutes left for John O'Keefe. And what are they doing in those 2 minutes? What are the last 2 minutes of his life that he can remember that would be open to him? They're arguing. They're arguing. They're arguing. And we know they're arguing because Ms. Reed tells us through first responder Becker. She was sad. Remember, he sees her in the back of the ambulance and he's trying to calm her down? She was sad because her last moments were arguing. They're in an argument. That's why they're not going in the house. But John O'Keefe decides to get out of the car, and we know because the dome light goes on. That's what happens when you open a door. Whether he's bent down, he's standing outside, or on the other side, the dome light is on. And then you see the data. John O'Keefe begins to move. 12:31:56. It's the first time he has moved since they got to the flagpole, and it will be the last time he moves in his life. And he moves for 20 seconds. Ian Whiffen said that the satellites, they move, they reconnect, they pull information. He's no longer on.
Oh, the
high-frequency
satellites
data
just missed that
waves
chunk
are
of time. That's
now
amazing.
It's more random. It's low frequency.
Now it's low frequency.
We would never suggest, and Mr. Whiffen did not claim, based on location data alone. At that point, you can tell exactly where John O'Keefe is. What he said is it was readings all night. The bullet is always near the flagpole. That doesn't mean he was always near the flagpole. He could have moved. He could have moved in the circles and come back. Location data is consistent.
The circles which go all the way to the front door and even inside the house?
That's not enough. But there's more. There is more. There is the healthcare data. There is the temperature of the cell phone battery. And so he moves for 20 seconds. It turns west. It does not say he walks to the house. That's not what the data says.
Yes, it
doesn't
is.
say that he goes straight line.
Your
and he
testimony
walks
that there's
over to the
86
door.
steps
In
that
fact,
occur.
Could he even get to the door in 75 feet? Could he get there?
Yes.
When the investigator for the defense testified, he measures from the driveway. He never stopped at the driveway. He never measures from the flagpole. He never measures from the flagpole to the garage door. So this fantasy that somehow he walked in the garage, even though there's no evidence, there's no witness, there's no data. 20 seconds of his life, and he moves. And healthcare data registers his steps. It could be pacing. It could be a straight line. It could be shaking the phone. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know everything. We don't know every little detail and every little second. We don't have to. That's not doubt. That's not reasonable doubt. We know for that 20 seconds he's moving. And in that 20-second window, when he moves, he has his phone and he looks down, 12:32:09, he sees a text message from his friend, John McCabe. And he looks at the text message and he closes it. And then it happens. We know from the uncontroverted data from that black box, we know that Karen Reed, after he gets out of the car, drives away. She drives for at least 33 feet away from him. He's back near the flagpole. She's gone. It's over. Whatever argument is over. Whatever anger and flame has been dispassioned, she's moved on. He's separate from her. He's safe. And then she makes a decision. That's what this case is about.
Then she makes a decision to go kill him with her car in the face.
She could have driven home. She could have broken up with him. They could have talked about it the next day. Or like knocking on the door, like Kaylee said, getting the last word. She doesn't drive away. She takes that 6,000-pound Lexus and she makes a decision. And the decision is that she steps on the gas after banging it into reverse. Before we talk about what happens next, I want to talk to you a little bit about the charges in this case. And I hate to digress, but it's important so we really understand what we're talking about here. I have no authority to talk about the law in this case. The Honorable Judge Cannoni will do that. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the charges. Don't rely on my interpretation of the law. It's the judge who has that special power. But I want to explain to you a couple of things so when you think about what happens next, you can really assess the facts of this case with the charges against Ms. Reed. She is charged with second-degree murder. It sounds ominous. It is. It's a serious charge, second-degree murder. When most people think murder, they think shooting or stabbing somebody. It's natural to think that. Second-degree murder is different. It's not first-degree murder. I told you at the beginning of this case, I told you that we were not going to suggest or try to prove that Ms. Reed intended to kill John O'Keefe. That was never part of this case. We're not claiming that. I told you that we were not ever going to try to prove that she even intended to hit him. We never suggested we would try to prove that, and we're not trying to prove that she intended to hit him. We're not.
Wait a minute. How are you getting second-degree murder with malicious intent if you're going to say, well, we're not going to try and prove she tried to hit him? I mean, that's the entirety of your fucking claim.
What we are obligated to prove and what we have proven from the evidence in this case of second-degree murder is that she intended an act, and that is putting the car into reverse and heading back towards John O'Keefe. She intended that act. The question then becomes, did her conduct create a clear, plain, strong likelihood of death. Late at night, dark, beginning to snow, under the influence of alcohol, knowing where she stopped and left him after an argument, heading back in reverse to the exact spot or right near where she left him at over 24 miles per hour, accelerating at over 75%. You need to ask yourself, are you
Accelerating at over 75%. That's not a
plain
thing.
and strong likelihood
You
of
can't
death?
accelerate it over 75%. What
And
does that
there's
mean?
no doubt in your mind that she intended to hit that accelerator in reverse.
Almost
And that
all the
conduct
way.
will create a clear and plain
But not
likelihood of
quite.
death. Then she is guilty of that crime. Whatever the label is, she would be guilty of that crime. Now think about this. Let me give you an analogy. If somebody, maybe a teenager, someone young, impulsive, is on a bridge, and they see cars going by, and they have a boulder, and they want to throw the boulder off, they're not looking to hurt anybody. They're not meaning to kill anybody, but they throw the boulder off the bridge because they want to see the car break, the thrill. And when they throw that boulder off the bridge, and it comes down and lands on the car, and there's somebody, passenger, anybody in that car, and it then goes through the roof and kills the person in the car, did they intend to kill that person? No, they were trying to have a thrill throwing the rock. Did they have the malice to want that person dead? No, they didn't. But that would be an example of second-degree murder. When you take a boulder and throw it off a bridge, there's a plain and strong likelihood of death. When Karen Reed, in the midst of that tension and fight, after she drove away and was gone, disengaged, when she came back for the last word, in the darkness, the beginning of the snow, under the influence of alcohol, and decided to stop her Lexus, decided to put it in reverse, decided to accelerate 75% in the exact same direction of where she left him, and then hit him, and he died. I suggest to you that is second-degree murder.
What? Where's the
The
malicious
other
intent?
charge, operating under the influence of alcohol, manslaughter. It's different. It's a totally different and separate charge. Was she under the influence of alcohol? And then secondly, did she operate her Lexus wantonly and recklessly in a way that would very likely result in serious injury? When you're under the influence of alcohol and you drive a 6,000-pound Lexus in the heat of the moment at the direction of where somebody is, whether you intend to hit them or not, I submit to you that is wanton, it is reckless. And any reasonable person would think it's very likely that serious injury would result. It's not a matter of intending to kill. It's not a matter of intending to hit. It is the conduct of the operation.
Wait, what?
And the
It
risk
is a
that
matter of
created.
intending to hit.
And
What are you
so those two
talking about?
charges are two of the three. The three is leaving the scene knowingly, causing
She
death.
has to intend to hit him. That's the mens
And we'll get
rea.
to
He's
that.
improperly stating
So
the
now,
law. It's really
sadly, we
fucking
need to get back
frustrating.
to 34 Fairview Road where we left. We know from the text stream data that you drove 33 feet at least, because it only picks up a 10-second window. And when it starts to pick up the data, we know she's driving at a speed. So it's more than 33 feet. We just don't know. And then when she comes back, she covers the 33 feet and 50 more. 80 feet. 80 feet. Over 80 feet. Now, nobody has ever suggested, even Dr. Welcher, when she collided with them. This data doesn't tell you collisions.
You
It's a 6,000-pound
and I
Lexus.
collide.
It's a 216-pound man. It's not going to show a blip. It could have been in that 10-second window. It could have been 2 seconds after. It could have been 4 seconds after. But it's in that pocket of time, and we know it. We know it because when you reconcile the data with the phone, that 20 seconds is in the same window of that 10-second window coming back. So even if it's a couple seconds later, 4 seconds later, whatever Mr. DeSorgo wants, he stops moving. John O'Keefe stops moving. Forever. Forever. Have slide 6, please. You'll get to see this more closely, and you can probably see it where you're sitting, but there's important data. Data doesn't lie, and you will see acceleration.
Sure it's not dater.
75%. You will see speed, 24 miles per hour backwards. You will see distance, over 80 feet. That's what you're going to
He's
see
going
in
the
data on that
distance.
night. Anger,
He's going
although
for
not necessary
speed.
in any of these charges, anger can be inferred. For somebody to come back that hard, that fast, that reckless, that obvious, likely to create a plain and strong likelihood of death. That data tells a story that can't be changed, can't be attacked. ARCA, they did some crash test dummies. You know what else they do? Text stream data. There's nothing about that data that is uncertain. Nothing.
It just doesn't say what you keep saying it says.
Take that down, please.
That's what is uncertain, is that your conclusions about the data are
Hits
not
John
correct.
O'Keefe, hits John O'Keefe, collides with John O'Keefe. We don't know if he went in the air a foot. We don't know if it was how much of a clip it was. We don't know if he stumbled back.
We know he didn't do any of those
No,
things.
There's no doubt there's a collision because her taillight's all over the yard. It's all over the yard. And when he falls back, and he hits the back of his head, his basal fracture, he's then lying there helpless. When Miss Reed leaves, she leaves behind tons of her taillight all over the yard.
Except she
All over
doesn't.
the yard. It's called debris field. And you've seen videos. You can't
Debris.
replicate the exact contact. You can't because you need where the person was hit, how fast the person was going, but you know what happened because when you look at the debris field, when a light is broken, it's no different than what was on the front yard. It's no different.
It's no different.
She leaves him behind. She leaves her taillight behind. She goes home. And on her way home, you know she's still angry.
How do you know?
She's still angry because she starts leaving him voicemails.
Why would she do that
Slide 7,
if
please.
if she just hit him with a car? Why wouldn't she just say, "Hi, you just got hit, you stupid piece of garbage"?
Healthcare starts at 12:31:56, 12:32:04 to 12:32:12 is the data which is adjusted when you reconcile the clocks on the Lexus. 12:32:09 is when Mr. O'Keefe closes his phone after looking at Jen McCabe's text. 12:32:16 is his last steps. Mr. DeSorgo says that red range should move a little bit, 2 or 3 seconds. They can move it 4 seconds, 5 seconds. It doesn't matter. It's all in the same window. It doesn't change.
Postman Matt says
Yep,
second-degree
slide
murder and
10,
manslaughter
please.
statutes have extremely similar wording. It would be confusing to try and tell them apart. I agree, but if he keeps saying that there's no intent to hit, then it's not second-degree murder. Thank you.
Each one of those pegs represents 10 feet.
Each one of
You
the
can't place
pegs
that
represent
car
10 feet.
Where it was in front
Used
of
to-
you. You just can't. The data
Identifying
doesn't tell you
pegs
that.
there?
That tells you the movements of that car. Now, as John O'Keefe sadly lays on the ground, abandoned, you're going to have to ask yourself a question for charge number 3, leaving scene knowing somebody was injured and then died. You're going to have to ask yourself, is there evidence that Miss Reed knew that she had hit him? Don't need to prove it for murder 2. Don't need to prove it for OUI manslaughter. But for the 3rd charge, Commonwealth has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt she knew she hit him. We weren't there, but there was an eyewitness. There was a guide. And that eyewitness tells us that she knew. And that eyewitness is Karen Reed herself. She tells you that she knew. Could we have slide 8, please?
Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? shoe blasting on the stereo. And I thought, did he somehow try to flag me down, which was the reaction I was hoping to garner as I slowly pulled away from the house. Did he come out and maybe trip or bend over to pick up his cell phone and I ran over his foot and then he passed out drunk? I mean, I didn't think I hit him, but could I have clipped him?
I don't think that's over. Like, I know that Hank thinks it's the most damaging thing, but I think
When she
asking,
left,
like, did that happen? Did
left
something
John
happen?
She didn't think he was mortally wounded.
She didn't even think that she hit him. She just thought that the possibility could have, like, it could have
So when
happened.
she made her way back home, not only did she
But she should
leave
not have given that interview. That's
detail
terrible.
all over the front lawn, but she took evidence with her too. Hair, DNA on the taillight, and she drove back to John's house. And she started calling on the way back, 12:33.
She took evidence with
minute and
her.
a half later.
She drove the car.
And then her messages
Her car.
show her anger. You see, this was John's fault. This was John's fault.
Yeah. She doesn't know he's dead, you weirdo. Even if your theory is correct, even if you think that she hit him here, you said you're not proving that she tried to hit him, which logically leads to the conclusion that she wouldn't know that she hit him, that she wouldn't know that he might be in mortal danger or even wounded at all. She's just sitting there going, why isn't he answering me? Why isn't he answering the phone? I mean, did something happen? Did I do something? I don't know. But this entire concept is like, why is she calling a dead guy? The Squid says the grand jury indicted on the theory of intent, but Hank wants to convict on the portion of second degree that doesn't require intent. Two different theories of the case, and it shouldn't stand. I agree. It shouldn't stand at all. The state should always be held to fight the case that they believe happened and not be given any leeway to just bring in something else as a compromise.
And her phone calls tell you about the tone and the destruction of that relationship. 53 phone calls that night. 53 phone calls. Not one to 911.
Bitch is crazy.
Not one to Jen McCabe, please go outside and try to help. Not one to a hospital. Not one to anybody but him.
It would indicate one of two things, and you haven't eliminated the second one. The first one is that she knew and wanted him to die or whatever, and she's like, suffer, die in the cold. The other thing it would indicate is that she had no idea. That's called reasonable doubt. Until you dispel that notion, show us where she had an idea. Show us at all. TLCG, welcome to Paralegal. Thank you for joining the channel. I appreciate that. It's warm and cozy here.
53 calls. Slide 12, please.
Like a fat guy's butt cheeks. Warm and cozy and squishy and everything. A little oppressive, though, and kind of smelly. Okay.
The calls keep coming.
The calls keep coming and they don't stop coming.
72 degrees. He's been outside.
Telling me he should die, then he hits the ground
not
running.
moving, on that cold, hard ground with his cell phone under him. The warmth of his body, the cold.
How does he hit the back of his head and have the cell phone under his chest? Like, right? Oh, God. Hit the back of my head. Dying immediately. But my cell phone's under my tummy.
Ground, 72 degrees. It tells you the story. As this temperature plummets and that cell phone battery is compromised, so is John O'Keefe. And him and his cell phone alone on that yard. 66 degrees at 12:45. It is plummeting.
Plummeting. It's not
Taking
plummeting.
the phone and putting it in a freezer, not a same analogy. The idea that means that John O'Keefe went in the house, absurd.
Major Poner, maybe.
66 turns to 61. It's
Depends on when it is.
48 unanswered calls from the defendant. He's not in it.
48 unanswered calls. He's happy to be dead after that. Like, oh my God, stop. He probably ended it all. The Squid says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we've proved to you with 53 phone calls in one night that Karen is a stage 5 clinger. We all know that crazy bitches are guilty and that bitch is crazy. Quote Hank Brennan. That's a direct quote. Oh my God. Could you imagine 53 phone calls? Like, stop calling now. Stop calling me. Thank God he was
Party,
dead.
He's not wrestling.
If he
Brian
wasn't
Higgins.
dead, she'd
He's
be
not in
dead
a
after
fight.
that shit.
If he's in a fight, his cell phone would be moving.
What?
There'd be healthcare data. There'd be steps. If he got into
Healthcare
the
data.
house
He didn't dodge that left hook.
in 20 seconds,
Whew.
and his cell phone is found under his body the next day, and how would he get back outside? There would be more steps because this phone is working. The data is the data. There's nothing wrong with it. It's registering everything. The temperature, the movement. He doesn't go in any house. He can't go in any house. His phone never
Yeah, he also
moves
can't
again.
slip a jab from what it seems.
Voicemail number 3, please. Listen to this.
John, I'm dealing with a fucking kid. Nobody knows what the fuck you are, you fucking pervert.
Did you hear that? Nobody.
You fucking pervert. John is slipping it in. She knows it. She's pissed. That was the plan that night, and she said no. He's like, we got to work on us before I can do this. I'm sticking with it.
Knows where you are. It is 12:59. John O'Keefe has been on that lawn for about 27 minutes. She hasn't called anybody else, hasn't spoken, has no information.
The first 27
Nobody's
minutes
called her.
of peace he's had in his
You'll see her
entire
phone
life.
records. And she says, nobody knows where you are? She knows.
Nobody knows where he is.
She knows. Nobody does know where he is. Except her. Except her. Why
Well,
is she
his
asking
two
nobody knows
kids-
where you are? She is starting to get panicked.
Where's kids texting
Because she
people and
knows
asking?
She hit him. Not suggesting she meant to kill him or for him to die, but she knows she hit him, and now he's not responding, and she's getting nervous, and she's getting anxious, and she's leaving call after call after call. He's not answering. He's not calling back. He's not even picking
So she
up the
didn't
phone.
try to kill him again?
And we know
Like,
what's
she
happening
did
at
or
this
she
point.
didn't? Which
Panic,
one is it?
Drunken denial. It's setting in. And so then we see the healthcare data from Miss Reed's phone. She doesn't move after 1 o'clock. She could be sitting. She could have fallen asleep. But she doesn't move for a while.
She could have drank a bunch of vodka.
But she wakes up. She wakes up early the next morning. You can take that down, please. And when she wakes up,
Actually, you
doesn't
don't know
call
that she doesn't move. You know her phone
Jen
didn't move.
McCabe and say, "Where's John?"
That's
She
different.
doesn't call Brian Higgins. Has his number. Has been texting with him. Hey, was John at a party with you? Did you see John tonight?
Were you trying to bang John by messaging me? Did it work? Did you guys bang? You a fun guy? I'm a ton of fun. I'm a lot of fun.
She knows exactly where she is, and she's frantic. So she wakes up Kaylee, that young girl at the time, and she says she's panicked. She can't understand what she's saying. Call Jen McCabe. Call Jen McCabe. Why is she calling Jen McCabe? She calls Jen McCabe. You know what she doesn't say when she calls Jen McCabe? When did he leave the house? What happened last night? No. She calls and says, I left him at the waterfall. I left him at the waterfall. See, now it's gone from panicked to self-preservation. I left him at the waterfall. And Jen says, left him at the waterfall? We saw you in front of the house. Click.
Holy shit.
Hangs up. Hangs up. So then she calls someone that she doesn't know very well. She calls Carrie Roberts. But now she has to pivot because someone has seen her in the exact spot that John will be found soon. Whether she's the first one there or somebody else, John will be found. Maybe Lucky missed him. It's a snowstorm. You can't see. But someone's going to find him at some point. So she calls Carrie Roberts. It's no longer she left him at the waterfall. She pivots. And she calls, Carrie, Carrie, Carrie. John's dead. I think he got hit by a plow. Why do you think she chose those words? Why did she choose those words?
Because she thought he got hit by a
knew
plow.
that there was a collision with a large motor vehicle, and she had to substitute her 6,000-pound Lexus
That's
for another
ludicrous.
big vehicle.
The more likely outcome is that she thought
And so
a plow
now
didn't
we
see
have
him
the
in the
introduction
giant
of
blizzard and
Jen
hit
McCabe
him.
and Kerry Roberts. Phone calls that they probably never, ever wanted. A worse nightmare to get a call like that. For what's going to happen, what they're going to see, what they'll never be able to forget. But because the defendant is John O'Keefe's girlfriend, they wake up in the middle of the night in a blizzard.
Oh man, they woke
Out
up
of
in a
their
blizzard.
kindness, their loyalty, their devotion to John O'Keefe. And when she calls them and tells them that she wants them to come out, this soccer mom with a perfectly normal life gets drawn into this whole farce. And she answers that call. She gets out of bed. The spirit and kindness she displays to put herself in that position because someone
Talking about
asked
Jen
for help,
McCabe.
because that's what good people do. Kerry Roberts didn't know Jen McCabe. They both knew John. They met each other once years before. Kerry Roberts, separately at that time, answers the call.
Both knew John.
Gets out of bed.
So
Drives
did all of the
to go
ladies, it
help,
appears.
because they have a common denominator, a common bond. John O'Keefe.
Ladies of Canton, though, y'all's
And so you hear and see at 5:07 the defendant leaves.
y'all's
Meadows.
legacy of
She leaves.
hot guys is really in
Behind
jeopardy
waiting.
because of this trial. Because it
And you
is.
see her back up, and Judd Welch just showed you all of those demonstrations where you could see the unsettled snow in the back, and after the bump, you can see the pieces missing, no taillight. There's no taillight on the ground, all the white snow. There's no crack, there's no break. It's a nudge. It's a nudge. But the taillight has already been broken because when you look at the video, not one little piece, it's still framed, little angle with the light, the brakes are.
Just for a second. Again, ladies of Canton talking about these hot guys. Like this dude. Okay. I guess. This guy, Brian Higgins? Whew. In my opinion, y'all need to step your game up.
You take a look, you'll be able to slow it down. You'll see the
And John is an
exact
absolute
same
dog
piece
from
is
all
missing.
accounts. This
Because it's
man
back at
is
Fairview. That's why it's
crushing
missing. It's not there, it's
randos
back at Fairview.
like crazy.
And then she leaves at 5:07. She gets to Jen McCabe's about
He's pulling tail
Oh.
like a 4-year-old at the animal shelter.
5:35. 28 minutes. It's about a 10-minute ride. Where does she go in 28 minutes? Where does she go? We don't know. We don't have data for that. But we know when she
Hillbilly
gets to
Nitrous
Jen
says, if you
McCabe's
looked in the
house,
mirror
she
lately there, Nick.
is
I'm not out here
panicked,
claiming to be a dog
frantic,
banging all the chicks.
out of her mind, screaming, waking everybody up. Jen McCabe comes down. Can't understand her.
You look
going
hot.
out to the car to try to console
Thought you were
her.
hot.
Why is she so frantic? Why can't she speak? Why can't she say a word? Because John went out and had a drink and fell asleep on a couch? Because John would maybe be cheating on her? What is causing this extraordinary
Sometimes your
stress?
jokes make no sense. What
She
jokes?
stopped somewhere
That
on
was
the way
all
by.
just serious.
Did she just see death?
All the like the quote unquote attractive people in this case
Terry
are
Roberts comes, take charge. kind of
very
person.
mid.
She pulls him behind. She sees the broken taillight in Jen McCabe's driveway, and she decides she's going to commandeer this. We're going back to Meadows. You're going to follow me. Leave the car. I'll drive. At this point, Jen and Kerry don't know each other. They've only met once. And they go back to Meadows. They obviously don't find John because he's back at 34 Fairview. And then they start their way towards 34 Fairview. They start driving towards 34 Fairview, and they're looking. And you heard from Kerry Roberts, Jen McCabe, they're looking out the window. They can't see a thing. The snow, the blizzard,
Just
the
can't.
weather, the darkness, they can't see anything. And they're driving, and they decide they're going back to 34 Fairview. And this is remarkable. This is remarkable. When they start their way past towards 34 Fairview, they get close.
Oh, there's so much of this left. There's like
When they get
30
close.
minutes left of this. You're fun
see
though,
how-
right, Nick? I'm a ton of fun. I'm a lot of fun. I'm a fun guy.
But the defendant screams, "Stop! Let me out!" And they look around and they say, "What? Let me out! Let me out!" She does not see John O'Keefe. She knows where he is. She knows exactly where he is. She knows where to find him. She knows where to expect to find him because she knows where she left him. She tells us. Slide 13, please.
Driving in Jen's in the passenger seat. And I've described this to everyone, so you probably know this before, but John looked like a buffalo on the prairie. It was just a lawn and a heap that it wasn't a bush or a hydrant or a dog. It was a weird shaped lump at that time in those elements. And I was looking to find him on the side of the road. I was expecting I'd find him.
Thank you. A weird shaped lump in a blizzard, and you equate that to John O'Keefe? A weird shaped lump, not like a bush, and that is John O'Keefe? She tells us she knows where she left John O'Keefe. And so they go over to Mr. O'Keefe, Kerry, and Karen. And she's upset, there's no doubt. I am not for a second trying to deprive her of the unrest and the trauma that is happening at this scene. Doesn't change what happened before, but I appreciate the trauma. And they're trying to help him. And guess what happens when they first move him around 603, 604? Ian Whiffen, data. The cell phone battery gets the cool air, presses on the battery, the cell phone battery drops. Healthcare data, he has not moved since that 22nd. Hasn't moved.
Hasn't moved.
They start shaking him. You're going to see, when you look at the records, that healthcare data starts to move. He's been there all night. All night. She chose to drive back.
Hold on, my bad.
And Jen says, left him at the waterfall.
That was my mistake.
The cell phone battery gets the cool air, presses on the battery, the
Just
cell
trying to
phone
see. There's about
battery drops.
25, 30
Healthcare
minutes
data,
left.
He has not moved since that 22nd.
I'm just trying to make it end. Like, I'm just trying to make it end.
You're going to see, when you look at the records, that healthcare data starts to move. He's been there all night. All night. Nobody else. Her.
Her.
So when they try to help him, she says something that is remarkable. She says, there's a piece of glass stuck in his nose. And she plucks it out. And she says when she plucks it out, blood spurts out. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes.
No, you can only have one of these at a
Remember,
time. If you don't have one scrolling.
Pulls it out, blood spurts out. That's what she says. As they try to help John, Jen is calling 911. They would like you to believe there's a conspiracy. That the glass that's found in Mr. O'Keefe's body is somehow from inside the Albert House.
No, they don't want you to believe a conspiracy. They just said that you didn't show where the glass came from. You can't match it to the tail light, or you can't explain how it got there.
The glass, well, you will hear in the clips if we don't play it.
You're hearing the clips. The clips.
He talks about the fact that he took her walk.
Notice it's always in the clips, right? Everything is about what Karen Reed said at the end of the day. He's sitting there trying to tell them, oh, no, our stuff was fine. But it all comes back to what Karen Reed said.
He took the glass.
He took the glass.
She says it. So the Albert House, they don't need to give glass. He already has the glass with the straw that's later found on the street, by the way. That's what happens on an impact. Things move. The glass comes with him, lands near his body. Debris field moves past him. Shoe, hat, straw.
Shoe on head.
Jen McKay makes a call to her sister, and they say because it registers 29 seconds, a Cellbrite record is not the same as a call detail record. There is no evidence there was a conversation. No lights go on. There's no conspiracy. You can call somebody. It can ring. It can go to voicemail. They have no evidence, none, that there's a conversation between Jen McKay, the person who was ripped out of her sleep to come help, and her sister for some grand conspiracy. And so what happens next is traumatic. Kerry Roberts and Jen McKay see their best friend prone, lifeless, frozen, on the ground. And they're living this torment because somebody brought them into this. When they're trying to help John, there is not one suggestion from anybody that John ever went into that house. There was no reason to go into that house because John was never in the house. Not one time has anybody said, what time did he leave? I thought he went in there. Not even a whisper of it because it never, ever happened.
Ever.
When they find their friend John, he's not 20 feet off the side of the road like Mr. Rentschler or Mr. Wolf thinks. He's right there by the side of the road, close by the curb. Could we have slide 14, please? You can see there's Kerry Roberts' vehicle, and then on the left, you can see where they're working. Right off the road, that's not 20 feet. That is a clip, a stumble, and a fall. And remember, when John O'Keefe fell, there wasn't snow. It was just the beginning of a dusting. It was the cold, hard ground. Remember what Dr. Isaac Wolf told us about cold, hard ground? Causes this type of injury all the time. All the time. If we could go to slide 16, please. Remember the
Violet, yeah, I think I was the
first
first lawyer to have Turtle Boy on to talk about this. He's super nice. I'm hoping his legal woes are going well.
Found the glass that he took from the car.
Maybe on Monday we'll watch his trial.
And then Exhibit 195.
If it's being broadcast.
Glass. On February 3rd, the matching piece of glass was found on the street. The matching piece of glass, the glass that was found with Mr. O'Keefe, was found on the street. He didn't fall back 8-10 feet from the road. It broke, and then it shattered and went to the street. I would suggest to you it broke at the time of the collision, and he carried the glass with him, leaving the evidence behind, a trail to memorialize what happened to him that night. Remember the straw? I asked you to take a look at that picture and we're leaving the waterfall at 12:12, the black straw in the drink on the street. Collision, glass, nose, straw, back, hits his head.
Nose and straw? What?
Could you play the clip on the left, please? 59.
Do you have any plans to have Turtle Boy on the show? Yeah, I talked to him just the other day. Would love to have him on, but what just happened? Oh, he's kind of in the middle of something at the moment.
So John's laying there, his left and his right, and I approached John from the left. That's where the street is. And he had a piece of glass, like, perched on his nose, like, just wedged like a splinter would be. And it just pulled it, and as soon as I pulled it, it just gushed blood down his face.
Thank you. 911's called by Jen McCabe. She's not hiding from anybody. She's trying to help. She's bringing attention.
Saren, I didn't watch. Oh, you mean the jury
When
instructions
911 comes, we
stream
have first
yesterday, I
responders.
guess?
These people are heroes.
I don't
Some
know.
of them.
It was
You've
just
heard from
boring.
Some of them. They were born to help people. That's what their life is about.
They were born to help. You can hear the heroic music in the background. They were born to help people. Where were they that fateful night?
The detail on all their mechanics of getting to work 2 hours early in the middle of the blizzard so that you're there on time so you can help people. These are the core of our community. Mr. Nuttall, this is what he does. He rushes to go help. He's the first person on his knees. He doesn't know this person from anybody. But to him, it's another human being. This is his passion. Katie McLaughlin, first responder.
McLaughlin.
This is not just a profession, it's her life. Yes, she knows Caitlin Albert. Do you think she went there that night at a party and set up a murder and came back? And so they tell you what happens at the scene.
It's not about setting up a murder.
Some things people will never forget. When you're in a traumatic incident,
I almost think that
sometimes it's something
he
you'll
should be
never,
objected
ever
to on
forget.
that. There's no
I think
evidence
Nuttall
that they
remembers
set up the murder.
speaking to the defendant. I hit him. Remember, he's on his knees. What happened? I hit him. I hit him. She is now coming to terms with the moment. Her fear is realized. She hit him. She clipped him. She didn't think he was mortally wounded. She panicked. She can't come to terms with it, so she has to bring people with her to face it. And now she's facing the reality of what
Where
she's
is
done.
all this? Where's this coming
Her
from?
emotion is overwhelming. I hit him. I hit him.
You have
She speaks
no
to Miss McLaughlin.
psychological
I
analysis
hit him.
and evidence.
Not that I hit him. Could I hit him? Perhaps I hit him. That was earlier. Now she's recognizing what she did. I hit him. And these people are making it up. Anybody that says anything adverse or inconsistent or inconvenient is a liar.
Yes. If it's inconsistent, then they're a liar. And it's because it's inconsistent with what they said before. So one of the things isn't true. They're lying then or they're lying now. Which one is it? And that's the question they're asked, and they never seem to have an answer, do they, Hank? Is it because you called and personally talked to all of them and specifically emphasized 3 times her saying, I hit him? Is it because you were involved in jury tampering or witness tampering and intimidation? Did you threaten those witnesses with perjury charges? Did you threaten them with the exposure of secrets? The exposure of secrets that seems to be the main focus of the cover-up that framed Karen Reed. What did you threaten the witnesses with, Hank Brennan? That made them all, every single state witness, change their story from the first trial to this one. What was it that you scared them with? What charge did you put on a piece of paper and put in front of them?
Or a perjurer? Or in on a conspiracy? Or is it that these good people who went there for a total stranger to do their duty to help?
They didn't go there for a total stranger. They answered a call. It's their job. It's like, oh, yes, the plumber went there for a total stranger to unclog his toilet. Well, yeah, the guy called him and said, hey, can you come fix it? The pizza guy went and he just brought food to a total stranger. Fuck you. You're stupid.
Happen to remember that she admitted what she had done. I know that doesn't reconcile with the boogeyman Proctor and the bad government. I know it doesn't reconcile with no DNA on this piece or that piece. I know it doesn't reconcile with everybody setting up the girl. I know that doesn't reconcile. But the reality is you have independent, core people who hear her say, I hit him. I hit him.
But none of them said that the first trial.
The attempt
And they
to
couldn't
betray
explain
everybody.
why.
That's a liar. But you don't have to rely just on these good people, although you should. You should. You don't have to, because we have a guide, and it's Karen Reed. Slide 17.
We have a guy, and that's Karen Reed? Is that what he just said?
So what I said was, did I hit him? And I've always said I hit him, but did I really say this many times as law enforcement's claiming I said it?
Thank you. I know it doesn't fit the theme, the theory, the story, but she tells you herself.
Yeah, it doesn't fit your theory or story because there she's just like, wait, did I really say that as much as law enforcement says I said it? Well, the answer is no. No, she didn't. There weren't witnesses for that until Hank Brennan got involved and started calling people.
She endorses those good people exactly what they had heard.
No, she didn't.
She tells you herself she hit him. It's undeniable, it's unmistakable, it's inconvenient. But the truth has a way of...
Yes, it's inconvenient because it doesn't match the actual facts. It doesn't match the actual thing. Her being retarded doesn't make her guilty. Her in an interview going, why did I say this on that fateful night? I mean, did it actually happen or was it just me going crazy? Doesn't mean that she's making an admission. This is what is so gross about state prosecutors. They all do this. That's not an admission. It's not confession of guilt.
seeping up to the daylight. It can be oppressed and suppressed and pushed down and covered and twisted, but it rises. It rises. And it is not a coincidence. There's no coincidence that Mr. Nuttall and Miss McLaughlin hear exactly that. She tells you. And Jen McCabe, when she's sitting next to or standing next to Miss McLaughlin, she tells you she saw or heard the same thing. Remember what happened to her on the stand when she had the audacity to say, I heard her say it? What happened to her? This woman who never even wanted to leave her home that day, pulled out into a storm to see her best friend dead. What happened when she had the audacity to say that? And now we know that the defendant herself said the same thing. And the funny thing, the ironic thing is, you will see in a photo when Miss McLaughlin, the firefighter, was speaking to the defendant, Miss McCabe was next
Pastor
to her.
Flash, we're going to do more
Miss
cooking with
McCabe
Kurt
was
after this,
trying
yes.
to protect her,
I don't know how
trying
long.
to shut her up. Don't talk, you're upset, stop saying crazy things. The villain of this story was trying to help
The
the
villain!
defendant
Who did he just point
from
at?
incriminating herself.
He just pointed at not Karen Reed, who's behind him. He just pointed that way. He's like, the villain of the story. Who's the villain? Who's he pointing at? That person should be on trial.
The irony. Could we have slide 9, please?
9.
This is the battery temperature.
Oh my gosh, it's all they've got the battery temperature on the phone, but it doesn't actually say what they want it to say.
The 29, 12, 13. They're leaving the waterfall, 82 degrees, 12:22. In the car, 77 degrees, 12:37. About 3.5 minutes after the defendant collides with John O'Keefe, it's starting to go down, 72. 12:45, 66, 12:53, 61. And you see it drop and steady off at 1:36. Remember, cell phone battery under him. John O'Keefe either struggling for life or he's passed.
He wasn't struggling for life. He's dead by all accounts very quickly.
Under him. Doesn't move again until 6:06. It drops down 7 degrees because the women are pulling on him. The cold air is hitting the battery. What happens at 6:15? You're going to see the video. You've seen it. Still photos. Carrie Roberts goes over, picks up the phone. Not only does she pick up the phone, she puts it in her pocket, and then 20 minutes later, the next meeting, the temperature rises. That's not convenient. That's not a coincidence. That's fact. That's data. And then the phone is passed, put in a warm environment, and it raises up. 6:15. How can someone conspire to pick up a phone on the side of the yard that was under Mr. O'Keefe's body at 6:15 and know the battery temperature was then going to rise? And not only did the battery temperature rise, when you look at the healthcare data, at 6:15 when she picks up the phone, you know what happens to the healthcare data, right? It starts to move. It's data. It's data.
It's data. But where's the injury?
So, while they're going
Where's
through
the
this
evidence that he
duress,
was hit?
the defendant asked Jen McCabe for yet another favor. Look up hypothermia. Find out how long it takes for someone to die in a cold. And there's Miss McCabe in her winter jacket, soccer mom, trying to help. She has MS. Her hands aren't working. She's trying to type in what's happening during that time. It's a frantic scene. She tells you that. The defendant then wants to run back to the ambulance, so she goes with her, never finishes or completes the input. And then she tries it again. At 6:23, at 6:24. That's what this woman did that night, that morning. Not only for her friend, for her. For her. That's what she did. And what happens to her after? Because the timestamp, when you open the timestamp, it's at the time it's open, and she's in bed at 2:27 looking up Hockomock Sports because she is so interested in the kids' sports, and that timestamp stays open. And she goes to that tab the next morning when she puts in how long to die in cold. And that is being portrayed that she's in a conspiracy. She gets vilified as a murderer, a soccer mom who came to help. It took Ian Whiffen 5 minutes to show you a live demonstration on how simple that works. That she's not deleting anything. Jessica Hyde told you it's automatic deletions over time. You usually can't delete that information. That's not a click and swipe like the good Dr. Wolf from Arca knows how to do. This can't be erased. But they still hold on to this. As they argue to you and all the injustices that have been done, they tell you, they want you to believe, or take a flyer on the fact that she looked up how long to die in the cold at 2:27. It is an absolute contrary to the science.
No.
There's no basis to support it.
It's contrary to the science that someone would look up something that kind of looks like they're a murderer. Anti-Flag and Crust says, how's the micropene count so low? Only 5. A little disappointed in the chat. I expected much more by now. Well, I haven't really focused on it. It's kind of losing its mustard or whatever. I think that's the expression. But I mean, as long as people keep telling the jokes within reason, then I'll keep updating them. But I do think we're overdue for something funnier at some
But
point.
they stand here in front of you. Why? Because
But it still makes me laugh pretty much every time. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
every time they say something like that, you look the other way. Don't look at what she did.
Don't look what she did.
Former Trooper Proctor, look the other way. Don't look at her. Every time they make those, oh, she got the glass from inside the Albert, maybe in the basement. Look the other way. Don't look the other way. Look at the facts. Look at the data. And it all leads to one person. There's no grand conspiracy. It leads to one person, the defendant. And it's not just the data and facts. It's her herself. Let's talk about Mr. Proctor. You were invoked with this emotion early in the opening that this is a cancer. That's a tough word. Trying to evoke that primal reaction, disgust. I'm not saying you shouldn't be disgusted by the text messages. You should. You should. They're not defensible. I don't stand here and defend impropriety. I don't. But that doesn't change the physical evidence, the scientific evidence, and the data. He was terminated. He paid a penalty. He was held responsible for what he did. He should have been. He should have been. But that doesn't get a free pass.
Wait, what are
That
we
doesn't
talking
change
about?
the facts. It doesn't change the physical evidence. It doesn't change the science. It's unfortunate. It's distasteful. It's dishonorable. Remember, Trooper Buchanan was asked, was the investigation with honor and integrity? And he said it was. Was Trooper Proctor's effort honor and integrity? And he said it was integrity. But he never said.
Whoa. He said it was integrity? How can we know? Proctor was clearly not acting with honor and integrity in his investigation.
Said honor. That's a man of honor. Military service, dedicated to his country, highest level of clearances to the President of the United States, now a state trooper. He would not say that Trooper Proctor was honorable. Because he wasn't. He wasn't. But that does not change. It doesn't create a conspiracy. Doesn't invent a dog. It doesn't make somebody in a house something they're not.
Invent a dog? Where's the
When you read
invention?
those text messages, they're hard to look at. It's unfair. It's unfair.
They're not hard to look at. They're kind of funny. The Squid says Hank believes in the science and data so much he was forced to not bring back Aperture for rebuttal because his case got fisted harder than Sasha Grey in her prime. Wait, was she? I don't know if fisting was her. Media actor says I would believe. Wait, I was reading Twitter. Sorry. Completely. Meaty actor. Disgusting.
And if there's a penalty more than being fired, well, maybe that penalty would be deserved. But it has nothing to do with
Well, the
justice
penalty,
in this case.
no,
It doesn't.
the penalty is deserved, and the penalty is the sanction that this trial cannot possibly be based on a biased investigation that was insufficiently done and obviously targeted with the purpose of framing and placing the blame onto Karen Reed and not investigating the other likely suspects involved. The sanction is freedom for your defendant. That's it. That's what needs to happen. That's the deserved outcome of those dishonorable texts.
Not one piece of evidence, not one, that we can look at and say, this was tampered with. This was planted.
No, it's that
This
he
was
didn't
distorted.
get it. He didn't gather it at all.
Remember when we introduced the taillights at the beginning? I didn't introduce 3 of the taillights, but then the defense did, so I put them in. Those were taillights that were only found by Trooper Proctor. I did not put that evidence in. Understanding those.
Yeah, you were trying to hide the low quality of the investigation. Gates of Above says, isn't it weird in Massachusetts the defense goes first for closing arguments? Super weird. Really disturbing. I hate it.
Text messages and appreciating the disdain one might have for his comments.
The
Not that
defense
there's
has to
any evidence
defend
of
what they
tampering.
don't know
Not that
is
there's
about
any
to be
evidence
used
that
to
it was not
attack
true.
them.
But I didn't put that evidence before you because we didn't need Trooper Proctor in this case. We don't need Trooper Proctor to
How?
prove this case beyond
How do you
reasonable
not need
doubt.
the lead investigator who
That's
gathered
why
the
I
evidence
didn't
that you're
introduce
relying
that
on?
evidence to you.
No other case on earth is someone like, you know what, we don't need the lead investigator. We don't need him at trial at all.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about planting of taillight. We know the taillight wasn't planted because Trooper Buchanan and Mr. Proctor did not go down to Dighton to see Miss Reed until later in the afternoon. We know from the 507 video.
This
we've
guy's
seen that.
chin
We
is
know
so
the taillight
massive.
was already missing when she's leaving the driveway.
It's like Jay Leno
When
had
the
such a
good
Johnny
Canton
Bravo.
police detectives went to do a wellness check to care for those young children, and they went to the house inadvertently. They didn't even know it. The dash cam captured the back of the car. The taillight packed with snow is missing. It's already gone. It can't be planted. At this point, Trooper Proctor's still in his pajamas. He's not even on the case. He's not even on the scene. He hasn't been near the car. And then the Dighton videos themselves, when you close it, you can take it at an angle and it moves, but if you get the right angle, you can see it's missing. It's gone. Can we have slide 18, please? .507. You can play anything you want, but if you look at this angle, it's gone.
He's gone.
You know, plant is already gone. You know where it is? 34 Fairview Road, on the Refield. January 29, 2022, 823. Look at the right-hand side. Look at the left-hand
Wendell,
side.
about
Packed snow.
10, 15 minutes, something like that.
It's gone. And the same thing when you do the videos, it's a different angle, a little smaller, but if you play that and watch the lights go up and down and slow it down, you'll see it expand. It's gone. So when you have Dighton Officer Barrows come in here and try to tell you what he saw in the salad bar, couldn't have been it. You got to ask yourself, what interest does he have coming in here in this case? A lot of attention on this case, a lot of people watching. Comes in after, of course, driving all the way out to the defense attorney's hotel to meet in a conference room so he can get a subpoena. He spends 2 hours driving up and back
Subpoena.
so that he can conveniently get a subpoena that tells him to appear, which he could have got by fax or in the mail. And so when he comes in, what he says is, that's absolutely not what I saw. Absolutely not. And then he claims at the last time he testified, he had made the same statement. I showed him his transcript. And did you see the redness creep over his face? He never said this before. In fact, he testified to the opposite. And so he sits on
Did you see the redness creep over his face?
the stand with a new story after a meeting. We don't know why. But then I showed him that bottom right photo.
I showed him that
Snow
photo.
with it missing, and I say, is this the way it looked? That's, of course, before the snow melts out in the salad port so that you can see it unexposed. And he says, yes, he had to agree. This taillight was gone. There's no boogeyman. There's no plant. There's no Higgins at the salad port. There's no one tearing out pieces. In fact, remember I played you a clip and you'll have it where the defendant says, I was picking out pieces, it was crashed in, the bulb was showing, when I was showing Kerry and Jen, when they went back to Meadows. If you don't remember, listen to that clip, you'll hear it. Unfortunately, there's no ring video when they go back to Meadows. There's a ring video when she leaves, there's no ring video when she gets back. And so, now when we're trying to look the other way, we want to find a dog bite. So enter Dr. Russell. Dr. Russell, according to her, nice woman, nice doctor, very
Nice woman,
accomplished.
good
I
dog.
respect that.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
the
yeah.
only dog expert in the world.
That's
Thing
not
is,
what
we
she
know
said.
no idea what that expertise means. She volunteers for the job.
She didn't say
She
she was
wants
the
to
only.
be here.
This motherfucker.
On her profile.
She did not say she was the only dog expert in the world. She said she was uniquely qualified to comment on this case. That doesn't mean that there aren't other dog experts who could qualify, who could talk about that case. Also, she's just uniquely qualified in her way to talk about the case. It's an abject misrepresentation of what she said, and it's disgusting. This guy sucks.
But she can't explain methodology. What are
I
you
hope he
looking
gets his
for in a
dick
dog
stuck
bite?
in a
She
blender.
can't tell us. It starts a year ago that it's claws, it's teeth, and then it's claws, then it's teeth, then it's I don't know. And then when you look at each
Claws
of the different
and
parts
teeth, that's
of
what
the
she said.
abrasions, she says, well, I can't tell if I look at each one of them, but all together it's a dog bite.
Yes.
Dog attack.
Yes, everybody looking at that knows that that's a
is
dog bite, including you.
Masterful expertise that the defense
'Cause it looks
is
like
right
you're
now
out
bringing
after
Dr.
your wife's
Russell
through with
telling
you.
Because she says this is a dog bite. She has never been in a forensic situation where she's looked at a wound and identified it as a dog bite before. This is the first time, the only time she's ever done it. And what she says is these are not
In a forensic situation, but she's identified dog bite wounds in several situations her entire career. Don't lie.
punctures. Punctures means it goes into the skin, a wound. There's no punctures. And she's sure, because she's an expert, so you should rely on her because she's coming in saying she's an expert and she's being presented. Yet, after saying there's no punctures, Dr. Laposada comes in and she sees punctures everywhere. It's an animal attack. It's a dog. Oh, is it?
Yes.
No method, no methodology.
That's
no
not
history
true.
of this, no prior testimony that we know of other than arbitrarily what she says. And
The defense is seething right now because they just want to let him go without making an objection. But this is such bullshit.
she says the exact opposite of Dr. Russell. Why is that? How does that happen? So obviously there is no science to looking at an abrasion and saying where it came from. They give us no detail. They give us nothing that we should rely on. They contradict each other. It's just to get you to look the other way. And so we have now the issue of the defense has said over and over again, there's no collision. There's no collision. There's no collision. And they had a number of witnesses come in to try to say that. And they point to Dr. Scorti Bello, who works at the medical examiner's office. She tells you that she doesn't see injuries consistent with a collision. She's looking at this case for 90 days. 90 days. The evidence in this case did not stop. It continued for 2 years. She knows nothing about.
She looked at the case for 90 days and found no evidence consistent with a collision. It's not like suddenly there was, oh, look at this new evidence. You have a corpse.
The data, nothing about the black box, nothing about the interviews of Miss Reed. She doesn't know about the DNA. She doesn't know about the shards in the arm or in the clothes. Strike that, in the clothes. She knows nothing about that. So in 90 days, she didn't see any lower body injuries. She didn't see any lower extremity injuries, which are very common in car collisions. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen because she, in 90 days, saw a fraction of the information. A fraction.
But not a fraction. She
know
saw the
now,
right fraction. The fraction about his
argument back
body.
and forth for days about lower body injuries. The suggestion is a car accident can affect everybody differently depending on the angle, the scope, the speed. Some people can get plowed over by a car and have no injuries. Some people can get touched lightly and have more injuries.
Blitzen says, actually, the x-rays were new. They weren't in the first trial. Do we need an x-ray to find out that his arm had no discernible injury outside the bites? Do we need an x-ray to see if there was no fracture of his arm that would be caused by a 6,000-pound fucking SUV towering down on it like Vesuvius? Are we kidding here? His arm would have been bent at a 90-degree angle. He could have used it as his own back scratcher, sitting there like, no way. She had 90 days of data. So while she didn't have these x-rays, everybody, like, no one who looks at this body goes, oh, yeah, his arm's obviously broken. No one. It's like, well, she just didn't have the data. Come on now.
Injuries, and there was the debate about no lower body injuries. Well, ARCA dispelled that in their dummy test that you can have a collision with no lower body injuries. They did that for us.
Yeah, when you have that collision, the arm shatters, you retard.
Thank you. And so the idea that at the time in 90 days that she doesn't have enough information to say consistent with a car accident doesn't mean there's no car accident. Let me talk a little bit about ARCA. I don't want to waste too much time with them.
I don't want to waste too much time with him. Eric Ragnarsson says, great to see you back, Nick. All love to you and your family. This is more disturbing than Rittenhouse in some ways to the prosecutor. Why would anyone do this? I don't know. Binger sucked, but Brennan, I think, is dirtier. I do think Brennan has surpassed Binger in dirtiness. And this closing argument's real nasty.
What expert who's supposed to come to you, they're not the arbiter of truth. Their opinions weigh no more than yours. Your common sense has more value than an expert's opinion. Their job is to assist you, to explain what their expertise is so that it's a tool for you so that you can make a decision. That's objectivity. We've heard words like confirmation bias, objectivity.
No, it
People
isn't.
that on the stand.
The Squid says 3 medical examiners say John wasn't hit by a car, 2 of which say there's dog bites. 2 experts in physics say John wasn't hit by a car. But yes, Hank, all of them are liars and unreliable.
Before we even started,
5 of them are hired by you.
What expert has a court order for text messages and And then deletes the text messages.
This is exceedingly improper. Right here, this is gross. Oh, this is disgusting. Holy shit. That was nasty. That gets my blood up. That is nasty.
What expert, what objective expert uses Signal and encrypted app?
Me, I'm an expert in all kinds of cool stuff. And I use Signal all the time. I use Signal to text your wife and your mother, Brennan. They're very nice people. That guy's chin in the background is so big.
To communicate about the case. Never used it before, hasn't used it since. And so when he...
Yeah, because the person he was talking to on Signal stopped talking to him. It's not a big deal. Not everybody uses Signal. So you're like, hey, do you use Signal? I use Signal. I like to have privacy in my communications. What about you? No, I don't care. I just use Messenger. Oh, okay, fine. You should use Signal, though, so I can send you nudes.
He did his tests.
I only say that to guys.
He used a lower weight arm. Wasn't trying to bash him, wasn't trying to insult him, tried to get him just to recognize that a 9.38 pound arm is less weight than John O'Keefe's metric, which would be 11.8. That's all, and because it's a lighter arm, it takes more speed to create the same damage. I don't know science, I don't know math very well, but that's basic.
No
It's
kidding.
basic. And he fought me over and over again.
That's because you don't know science and you don't know math, and he does. Of course he fought you. Everybody should fight you on that. Oh, my God. Do you know how to use a clock?
Did he seem
I met your soulmate the other day.
objective that he was trying to help you? Because Dr. Renshaw came in the next day and said, well, you have to adjust for that. That's all I asked him for an hour about adjusting, just like Judge Welcher adjusted. Do you adjust it? And he tried to talk to me like...
You adjust the data that can't be adjusted. You said data cannot be adjusted. It's just fact. It's just data. And then you're talking about adjusting it right now. God, you suck. Ah!
Making something up. His own colleague had to admit
Getting the
it.
vapors.
Now, it's funny, he admitted it before he got through his credentials. No sequestration order violations. Nobody was coaching him, but he knew enough to come in at the beginning and get right on that point. And speaking of sequestration, remember Dr. Russell on her limo ride over? If Brennan asks you a question, make sure you ask for a transcript. Impede the progress. Slow down the questioning. Interfere. Sequestration orders is so there's fundamental fairness for all witnesses, not just some.
He's almost
And
done.
so what happened
He's
to
almost
Dr.
done.
Renshaw, we don't know.
So
But we do know he comes in here
so
and
ready
tells
for him
you
to be
that
done.
he's not getting information that was helping him the last time he testified. He insisted.
Don't you hate when someone just looks you in the eyes and lies to you? Like, can you imagine doing this to a jury? The worst part is we don't know that his career is going to be torched over this, and it should be.
I asked him 5 times, was he getting information that would help him in his testimony? Not from the defense, from his former employer. And he said, no, no, no. And at the end of the examination, he reads his transcript, and it's yes, yes, yes. And he tells us that he's independent and objective. I asked him about a luncheon, not a big deal, just asking him about it. And he says, I have a sandwich and I stand in the corner until I remind him that we got video footage from a documentarian, and he's in one of the scenes.
I really hope
Things change.
they levied their
So when you talk about
objections.
objectivity and who to trust, they can
in
come
advance
and
outside the
say,
presence of
Judge
the
Welcher
jury.
said this and that. It doesn't make it so.
If they levied their if they got a copy of his closing argument outline, and he provided a copy, and they provided a copy of theirs, and then each one they stipulated to file objections so that they would not object and interrupt the argument, but they would object and let the judge rule on the objections, or just preserve the record of their objections and have the judge overrule them. That would be great. Like, I hope they did that, and I hope they're not just letting this go. Because there is some stuff in here that is just blatant misrepresentation of fact and law, and that's gross.
Judge Welcher, Dr. Welcher, never in any report, in any presentation, in any testimony to you, ever suggested this is how it happened. This was how his arm was. This is how his feet was. He was trying to show whether or not orientation. Could this happen with the angle, with the height? That's all that test was. It was no more. But what they do is they reposture it repackage it, and say it means this when it doesn't, and we're going to show you why it's not that, therefore we win. That's all that is. It's semantics. Doug Welcher.
No, it's not semantics. It's every single expert saying, no, this could not have been done by a car. All of them. Only all of them, though. Eric Ragnarsson says he's working for the state, so does he even care? No, he'll never be prosecuted because or dealt with because he works for the state.
This motherfucker pointing fingers about sequester when their entire witness list suddenly came up with, I hit him this trial. Fuck this nigga.
Not only that, but Jen McCabe admitted to meeting with other witnesses and comparing and sharing notes. The FBI chick admitted that she was given information after the fact that disproved her firsthand knowledge of what happened. That information, of course, came from her superior officer who was saying, do the right thing when she was on her way to testify. But that being said, you know, like the sequestration order is an absolute joke for the Commonwealth. It just only mattered for the defense, like always.
Dr. Welcher never suggested that. And his work on text stream data, unassailable. And so what
unassailable,
we have,
why?
inevitably, is we have...
Dr. Welcher's work on text stream data is unassailable. What are you talking about? You brought in Shannon Burgess, who assailed the shit out of it. You brought in an expert that assailed it. And specifically said, no, everybody else got it wrong. Just me without the degree got it right.
A timeline that never moves, data that never changes.
Except when you brought in Shannon Burgess and changed the timeline and the data. The fuck is going on here? What is happening?
Evidence that can't be put in that spot without a collision. We have, inevitably, proof, without any doubt, that on January 20th...
Did you see Hank just breathe out right there? Or not Hank, Alan Jackson. He just breathed out a whole fucking horse. He's like... He went monkey face on this motherfucker. He's like, he wants to object so bad. They had to have stipulated this out. The Squid says Aperture did no scientific tests about the collision, but claimed in their report they did biomechanical analysis and accident reconstruction. Of course, ARCA did proper tests in rebuttal, of course. But then they moved to have ARCA's tests excluded.
2022, Miss Reed was with Mr. O'Keefe, and she got drunk. She drank. She was 2 to 3 times over the legal limit.
She was
and they
not.
went to a party, an after party.
She was not 2 to 3 times over the legal limit. You didn't get that into evidence. That didn't happen, I don't think. Did I miss that day? Did I miss that day where they're like, oh yeah, she was a 0.16 to a 0.24? I don't think so.
And they were fighting. It was a relationship in decline, and he got out of the car.
How do you know it's a relationship in decline and not just a relationship where 2 people are fighting? Some people fight and their relationship isn't in decline. They're just having a fight. Sometimes you just got to yell at somebody. Most of the time, it's me.
He had a brief window of life left.
It's because I'm a jackass.
When he got out, and she drove
And I'm a
away,
lovable jackass.
She couldn't let it go. She got drunk. She hit him. She left him to die. It's that simple. We don't know exactly how this collision happened, but we have a good idea from the physical evidence, and we know that it happened. Can someone have a collision without lower body injuries? Could I have slide 19, please? You bet they can.
Island says they took her BAC at the hospital and extrapolated backwards to determine she must have been 2 to 3 times the legal limit 18 to 20 hours earlier. No lie. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's not testimony about what she has. That's not data about where she was. They have no idea how intoxicated she was 5 hours before they took a test. And it's fucking insane to think that they did. In every state, I believe 2 hours is the maximum they're allowed to go back because it's insane to say otherwise. Oh yeah, we'll just estimate how drunk you were.
We don't know if this is the body position. We don't know if this is the exact speed, but what it tells us, this is viable. Look at the debris field. Look at his turn. Remember his sneaker on that curb that got lodged against the sneaker? Mr. O'Keefe then falls back, hits his head, counter coup. left to die.
Hank misrepresented this. Hank said we saw that there would be no injuries to lower extremities, yet that tire just ran over that right leg, which is in fucking Egypt as far as flexibility is concerned. I mean, my man is going to be having some pulled groin muscles after that twist and turn, but his right foot got clearly run over, flat on, perpendicular to the tire. Likely would bust some bones or at least cause some bruising. We don't have any evidence of that. Hank Brennan represented that that this dummy in this crash test has suffered no lower extremity injuries, and that's just not true. He's a liar. He's a liar, and the state lies all the time, and nobody does anything about it, and everybody's just like, well,
Ladies
the
and
state
gentlemen,
lies.
there is no doubt what happened that night. There is no doubt who did it. You have a very difficult task ahead of you when you consider the evidence.
You don't have a
consider the
single
law.
person who can
Very
actually
difficult.
put her
There are
in the
three
car
charges.
hitting him.
There is second-degree murder. Miss Reed, when she chose to drive.
Eric Ragnarsson says, and you are a guy, but what the fuck? Who doesn't leave their phone on a table or anywhere when they're drunk, really? Yeah, I mean, she could leave her. She didn't move for 2 hours. But how do you know? Her phone didn't move. That doesn't mean she, didn't set it down. Actually, I find that, well, at least Lady Rackets, she sets her phone down way more than I do because I have man pockets. Man pockets are for man hands. Women pockets are for bullshit and show. You can't shove a phone in most of these chicks' pockets unless maybe they're over 250 pounds. But if you're a normal sized person or a Karen Reed sized person, there's no way a full size phone is going into a pocket on a pair of jeans that Karen Reed's wearing. It'd be bulging out harder than a baseball player's cup. What are we talking about here? It's exceedingly likely that she would set her phone down on a counter or an end table or a couch or a chair or the floor or the toilet or wherever she wanted to, and then move around the house on her own.
Drive back at Mr. O'Keefe in that night with a 6,000-pound Lexus. In that anger, 75%, whether she meant to hit him or not, didn't mean to kill him, she hit him. Strengths, it is a plain and strong likelihood of death. You would never back down your driveway if your kids were at the end of the driveway. You would say, what, are you going to kill somebody? You would never do it because you would expect, if you drove at them at that speed, that someone would die. That's second-degree murder. OUI manslaughter, she's drunk, she was reckless. She doesn't have to know she hit him. She doesn't even have to know she hit him.
This is such a bullshit move by the state. I hate
And
this.
she left a man
Lesser includeds are
who was
garbage.
kind and generous.
Yeah, that really makes sense. If she didn't even know she hit him, she left a man who was kind and generous to die. If she didn't know she hit him, as you just claimed, then she didn't leave him there. She didn't know. The Squid says, wait, did Hank just say they don't know how the accident happened? That means they didn't prove it. But why are we still here? Exactly. Oh, this is so frustrating.
And thoughtful, she left him alone. She left him alone to die. Could I have slide 22, please?
No, even fat women pants have skinny woman pockets. See? See? This is what I'm saying.
He is not an it. John O'Keefe is not a body.
Not a good one.
John O'Keefe was not a buffalo on a prairie. John O'Keefe was a person.
What the fuck? John O'Keefe was not a buffalo on a prairie. You are in a metropolitan area. What are you talking about? Buffaloes on a prairie. He's a lump in a suburban yard.
And he was murdered by Karen Reed.
Oh, he didn't even say thank you.
Take that, thank you.
Take that, thank you. She was saying take that picture down because it could eventually prejudice the jury, right, to just have that picture sitting up. Okay, there we go. I hated it. I hated every second of it. I thought it was disingenuous, dishonest. I think it was garbage. I'm incensed. I'm incensed by what I just watched. It is a travesty of justice. Every fucking time these guys get up there and talk, it's a travesty of justice. But this in particular, this is worse than other ones we've watched. Is dishonest to a fault. Watching him say the opposite of what the testimony actually said. What his own experts said. He just stood up and said that they said something different. That's insane. And the defense doesn't get to say anything back. And for some reason, the defense had to go first. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Oh, he's quoting Reed from from her interview with the Buffalo thing. Fine. Still stupid. Shouldn't have done it. I don't think it's a good callback to the interview. I don't think it's appropriate. I think it was a mild attempt at levity, and I don't think that's appropriate in the closing argument of a prosecutor prosecuting a murder charge. I just don't. I think that was wrong. Wrongly done.